Sean, I know that you've almost always worked in a remote situation, but at the top of the pandemic, requesting things like new hardware or assistance with that pesky headset, while they were old hat to you, they weren't for folks like myself. So that remote and hybrid operations was totally foreign to me.
Yeah, and while maybe it was foreign to you, it doesn't mean that it's not something that I still need, right? So even though being a veteran of the remote world, right, it's just more widespread now, right? It's not just the unique folks like myself previously. Everyone needs some level of that remote support. In fact, I would even argue that in office, a remote capability is still going to be a huge benefit to a business.
Absolutely. And when we think about this reliance on needing support to enable those users remotely, our reliance on digital resources has grown exponentially. So looking for that help desk article, asking for assistance on an issue, or even striking up a chat on something like Teams is all done in an online format. That also brings into the question, where can the service desk come into play to unite those critical applications and ultimately drive a positive experience for all of their users? For this topic today, I'm really excited for what we're going to be discussing. But before we get too deeply into our conversation, a quick round of introductions are in order. I'm Liz Beavers, head geek at SolarWinds, and I'm thrilled to be joined by one of our seasoned ITSM sales engineers, Sean Sebring, to talk about several integrations to take into consideration when looking to optimize your internal operations with the service desk.
Thanks, Liz. Happy to be here. Yeah, there's lots of IT tools that you can keep in your arsenal. They're going to contribute to things like productivity, efficiency, and even just an ease of use for overall communication and connectivity, right? So this results in an increase in that end user experience and efficiency for the technicians to be able to respond to administering that tech support.
Absolutely. And today, Sean and I are going to dive into 3 integrations with SolarWinds Service Desk. One being Daymore Remote Everywhere and that remote support experience. We're then going to explore integrating with the Orion platform and the service desk to help with visibility and collaboration across IT teams. And then we're going to round things out with SolarWinds Service Desk's integration with Microsoft Teams to enhance communication with requesters. Sean, let's go ahead and kick things off with that integration with Daymore Remote Everywhere.
Yeah, let's not waste any more time. We got a ton to cover today. So as Liz mentioned, many of us still work remotely, and there's nothing more frustrating than having an issue with your equipment that requires a technician to actually kind of see and experience what's going on your device.
This is admittedly a bit challenging these days as I can't walk down the hall to my favorite technician's desk. So when I need help and I need it quickly in order to remain productive and keep up with my day-to-day tasks, having a remote support tool ingrained in the service desk is really going to help to contribute to my experience as a requester so I can keep moving forward with the work I need to accomplish.
Yeah, you got it. So without further ado, to set this up in the SolarWinds Service Desk, teams will need to log into their Daymore Remote Everywhere environment and extract their unique ID, right, or a UID from their console, and API key. It's in the API key tab. Once they've obtained their UID, they navigate to the setup of the SolarWinds Service Desk and enter the ID within the remote support integrations, right? Sounds pretty simple. Well, it is.
Exactly. And while it is so simple, this is going to help contribute to that seamless user experience and also help with technicians so that they can more seamlessly provide the support that their requesters need throughout the organization.
So now that we're in a unique ticket, this is the experience that can be for a technician and will also kind of guide us to what the experience is going to be like for the end user. So by opening up a ticket, off to the right here, we see our Daymore Remote Everywhere integration. Now again, simple with the authentication, we'll keep it simple in this interface as well. First, we're going to click Create a Session, right? And after we create the session, let's insert that link into the ticket, right? And what this does is this pastes a link. So while the end user and myself are actively engaged, they click their link, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click Connect to Support Session, right? And as I connect, they connect. we're now in a session together, right? And one of the benefits to this is while unattended sessions can be necessary, this is getting the authorization. This is joining together with my end user. And so this is bringing a different type of remote experience to that end user, right? Something that they're joining actively with the technicians offering them that support.
While that requester is remote, they're still able to have an engaging experience with that technician. And the technician can ultimately drive that white glove experience that many end users are after. But by having this conversation, one of the other added values here is this is going to have a footprint in this ticket and in the audit log. So for reporting purposes moving forward, the organization is going to have the visibility into the various Daymore Remote Everywhere sessions that have taken place across incidents within SolarWinds Service Desk.
So what we're focusing on here is that end user experience, right? Joining a session together with your technician, staying within the same simple ticket interface. That's not to say that Daymore Remote Everywhere doesn't have that more technician-centric admin console, right, Liz?
Exactly. And while we think about that one experience and that one integration, that helps us build to that next degree of visibility that we need to attain between technicians and IT administrators. So with that, let's move on and dive more deeply into the Orion platform integration with SolarWinds Service Desk and how that can enhance visibility, communication, and more proactive operations between IT teams.
So the Orion integration is one of the more tasty things we're going to be looking at today. And so while the service desk team is there largely in part, we think, to manage tickets, right, monitoring tools. So this is where it becomes a little more interesting to the infrastructure side, the network teams, right, your engineers. So we all know very near and dear if there's disruptions, we need to know about it. So this is going beyond just the initial notification, right, logging that something took place. This is an integration that's going to help create accountability and reliable, actionable stuff between my monitoring platform and my ticketing system. So again, while notifications are definitely something that's necessary, this gives the service desk the ability to take action on those alerts and not just know that something happened.
That's spot on. And that's why I find this integration to be so powerful and so valuable to teams. So not only are we helping to streamline the data intake and how it can be acted upon, but we're helping to eliminate some of those silos between our internal IT teams so that we can continue to ensure productivity and the ongoing success of the organization at large. Now, Sean, I know you mentioned that this is a pretty meaty integration. So let's actually get things started with how folks can establish the integration between the Orion platform and SolarWinds Service Desk before we get to the fun stuff like automating alerts to generate tickets.
Awesome. Yeah, so let's peel back this first layer by going to create the integration. And you're going to be very surprised at the ease of integrating these two platforms together. So creating the link between Orion and SolarWinds Service Desk is very easy. First, just open SolarWinds Service Desk and go to Integrations, and of course, you'll click on Orion Alerts. Then we just need to name this integration link, which is important to note because you can integrate with multiple Orion platforms if necessary. Once you've named it, hit Create, and all you need to do is grab a token.
One of the other great things when you're establishing that connection point between the Orion platform and SolarWinds Service Desk is you also have the opportunity to identify a requester. Again, this is going to be a bit more pertinent when we get to things like automation and what that will actually look like once an Orion alert hits your SolarWinds Service Desk queue. But by leveraging and creating an Orion requester, that can even help with some reports in the future just to bring visibility to what's actually taking place between these two within this integration.
Now, from an integration standpoint, that's all we need to do in the service desk. Easy. Now in Orion, we need to use that token. First, go to All Settings and then navigate to Manage Alert Integration Instances. Click Add Instance and, of course, click on Service Desk. Then just name it here and paste your code. Boom. Integrated. Leveraging the integration is just as simple. So we're going to go to Alerts and Manage Alerts and either create a new one or add an action to an existing alert, right? Which is great because if you've already been leveraging the Orion platform, you can go ahead and take advantage of this integration by just adding more value to the existing alerts. The action is called, and we like to keep it simple, create SolarWinds Service Desk incident, right? Again, it's very easy. And so we can highlight specific attributes in here when we're making the integration. And again, that's all there is to this integration. What do you think, Liz?
Absolutely. And one of the things that I love about this integration as well is you are then able within the Orion platform to take specific attributes like the location of an incoming alert and then affiliate that to specific automation rules within SolarWinds Service Desk to help make for those alerts to be truly actionable once they hit the service desk. So with that in mind, Sean, let's actually take a look at how we can scope automation rules within SolarWinds Service Desk so then teams can begin to take action on those integrated alerts.
So this is really fun for me because a lot of what we've been experiencing so far is pretty automatic, right? When we think about the alert coming straight from Orion, now let's look at automation rules that we're specifying in the service desk. So taking that alert and applying some service desk or ticket specific rules to these alerts. So when we're building an automation rule around an Orion alert, we have the ability and fortunate opportunity to target a specific requester as well as specific keywords that we configured in our alerts. So building the condition sets is very easy. Once we've identified what we're looking to capture, then we can identify what actions we want to take when those conditions are met. For example, sending a custom notification to the right folks, as well as updating the record with the appropriate category, subcategory, or even the criticality.
Exactly. And those are great examples, Sean. And that, again, is another component as to why I think this is such a valuable integration between these two key business platforms. Having that automation rule in place now is going to alleviate some of the human input and help to streamline the escalation of some of these incoming alerts. So as we continue to build on this specific integration, let's now look at what that Orion alert that has come into SolarWinds Service Desk is going to look like in the form of a ticket and some of the additional actions that a service technician could be taking on that incident.
So you mentioned jumping into a ticket, but how do we know which ticket to look for? So one of the beautiful parts about the integration is just one, being able to specify who the requester is going to be on the tickets being generated. So in this case, I've got an example here. We're looking at our Orion Alerts requester and the tickets that they've submitted that are in an active status. So looking at the tickets, now let's look at our specific record. And here we can already see the value of the information that was brought across from Orion. So we're able to identify as a technician which device is actively having the issue, what the active issues are, as well as take this and look at it from a couple of different angles.
That's exactly right, Sean. So one of the things within SolarWinds Service Desk is the inclusion of that related tab. So perhaps that incident record that we're looking at, maybe a technician has already affiliated that to some similarly reported tickets, or it's even affiliated it with the impacted assets. But I know that there are some additional measures that could be taken from a service management perspective, right?
So as you were mentioning, another technician could have already come in here and built a relationship between this incident and several others. Just because this came across from Orion doesn't mean that an end user hasn't already reported an experience with what Orion's telling us as having an issue. This actually branches into other ITIL practices, right? When we have one issue that's causing multiple incidents to come in across the environment, this is now becoming a little bit more of a problem. So being able to relate other incidents is great, but also being able to identify that there's a problem here is going to be a next level of maturity and something, again, that is just another benefit of having the integration alert us of a device being down.
Absolutely, Sean. And I think we've seen over the course of establishing this integration that with these two key resources together, it can help drive more efficient communication, more transparent visibility, and more seamless operations between two internal IT teams. So, with this idea of enhanced visibility, heightened collaboration, and communication, it really does encourage transparency between teams. Now, as we're also thinking about transparency between teams, what about, again, that user or that requester's experience and how they're actually communicating with their support team? What comes to mind for me is needing to quickly be able to report a ticket I'm having without necessarily having to enter the service desk. I'm talking specifically about our Teams integration, Sean.
You couldn't have teed me up for Teams any better there, Liz. And I think that this is great for us to just jump right in. So this is a very simple integration, and simple is the key here because we're talking about that end user experience. As an end user, I want to be able to, from where I do my communications, submit a ticket.
Exactly. And selfishly, if I think about it from the perspective of being a requester day to day, I'm living in my communication and collaboration tools like Teams. So, Sean, can you walk us through the basic authentication and what that experience is actually going to look like once we've integrated Microsoft Teams with SolarWinds Service Desk?
Absolutely, Liz. And this is going to be super easy, just like all the integrations we've looked at today. In your Microsoft Teams client, look for More Apps and search for SolarWinds. Install the SolarWinds app to your Teams client, and you're going to see 4 options. And the first of which is going to be Log In. After logging in, we're going to have options to create an incident. And it's as simple as that. Now this is going to look just like an email. We type in a subject, a description, and then we submit our ticket. The Teams is going to respond to us with an incident number and a link to jump into the self-service portal so that we can review our ticket or other self-service options.
And once the ticket has been submitted by the requester, the technician's experience doesn't really change. They'll be able to go through and troubleshoot and diagnose that recorded incident just as they would had that ticket originated from the self-service portal or even in an email. But integrating these two applications together really does help to centralize the service desk as that valued resource across the organization. And again, employees don't have to remember another login. They're able to reference a tool that they live in and day out, fueling that positive user experience.
This is great, right? So tying in the specific integrations we looked at today is just some of many, because while we are used to working in some apps, there's another app coming tomorrow, and we're probably going to want to integrate with that. So our focus today was going cross-functional with something like Orion, looking at network between the service desk and the Orion platform, as well as going from the end user to the technician, all within a simple ticket interface, as well as that end user experience to simply and easily pop in a ticket right from your chat channel.
Exactly. And with those integrations, this is only the start of that conversation. There's so much opportunity to connect those other critical business applications that you're reliant upon day in and day out. But ultimately, with these integrations, not only are you bringing together your technical resources, but you're also helping to optimize your human resources to make their days more seamless and productive overall. So I know we covered a lot today, but Sean, thanks so much for driving us through 3 different integrations you can consider within SolarWinds Service Desk. It was a lot of fun.
Thanks, Liz, and thanks to everyone who joined us here today. As always, if you have questions or even examples, especially of how you've leveraged these integrations, please let us know. We'd love to hear from you on Thwack. Again, thank you, and everyone take care.